Hi! So, if you're wondering why I died again after posting 4 videos, well, the simple answer is I posted 4 videos so I wouldn't have to worry about posting for a few days. But I decided, no, I'm going to be special. And decided, fuck it, we're posting more. So, the goal is to complete 4 of these. I've already completed the cover art for them. I may do more, but I'm not betting on it, considering my throat's kind of dead. And I have a tendency to get distracted. So we'll see. This time I'm trying black tea with milk and sugar. Uh, at this point, I think it's gonna be a tea talk each time I start one of these. Anyway, let's get to it. This is Black Cats Are Bad Luck and So Are You, Kid by Holly, Chapter 13. Mirio stayed for a little longer before leaving, promising to return for Eri at 5. The little girl was holding Izuku happily and giggling, Izuku letting her and going limp. His legs swayed as she twirled. The girl held him and talked to him, walking around the apartment and holding him. The girl had been worried and kept panicking whenever he was out of view, so Izuku stayed close just while the girl was there. Both of his teachers kept quietly checking up on him, but he waved them off each time. His fur felt gross, but the girl who held him in her lap while she watched Moana kept panicking whenever he walked away, and he felt bad. So he let the girl haul him around, ignoring the jeering calls of Sushi, who kept on top of the cat tower and out of reach. Eri eventually fell asleep, so Izuku crept off her and sat down close, fixing his fur. His homeroom teacher came in and sat down gently beside the girl, covering her in a blanket. He leaned forward and looked down at Izuku, who was intensely trying to fix a cowlick on his back. The man chuckled and reached out to gently help fix it, which Izuku appreciated, but it didn't help much when it popped back up again. The man snorted while Izuku glared it down. The man quietly spoke down to Izuku. "I can give you a bath later if it will help." Izuku nodded as he'd been picking Cheerios out of his fur for a little bit. Eri was sweet, and while grown more than most children, was still a child. While Izuku was glad she could be a child, it was still messy, especially on his fur. He flicked his ear and shook himself off, his teacher reaching behind his head to scratch there and pull out a Cheerio he had missed. The man chuckled and rubbed just behind his ears. Izuku began purring. The man chuckled and lifted him from the ground with a small groan, setting the boy on his lap. Izuku went limp as he was lifted and set onto the man's lap, sitting back on the couch and continuing to pet the boy on him. Izuku sighed and settled down, curling his paw under his chest and closing his eyes, relaxing and slowly drifting off to sleep. Though this peace didn't last long, as Eri woke not 10 minutes later, all recharged, and grabbed the boy from his teacher's lap, spooking him awake and dragging the small cat to the kitchen for more Cheerios. Eri eventually left, after a long movie marathon and a board game, in which Eri dominated as the seasoned heroes let her win, and the pieces were hard to move with paws. Mirio gave Izuku another fist bump, and they left, Eri excitedly telling the boy about her day. The two men collapsed on the couch and sighed, having entertained a child for the past 15 hours. The blonde on the couch chuckled and looked over at the other. "God, I remember why I don't want kids now." The man beside him snorted and sat up again. "She's a good kid, though I suppose I should help the other child she terrorized today." They both looked over to Izuku, who had been the victim of Eri's glitter spell, where she dumped a ton of pink glitter onto the boy's fur. The girl had felt terrible but Izuku purred and comforted her through her plight, though he could hear both of his teachers trying their damnedest not to laugh in the kitchen behind him. Izuku flicked his tail and walked over to both of them, jumping onto the couch, much to both of their dismay, and shaking himself off. They both yelled and laughed. His homeroom teacher swiftly lifted him and carried him to the bathroom, chuckling softly. You little shit. You're lucky Hisashi buys the best vacuums around. Zuko meowed insistently. The man set him on the bathroom counter as he waggled his finger in the small beast's face. Don't even. I'll let him use it on you, you little shit. Zuko hit the man's face with his paw and gave him an unimpressed stare, the boy finally catching the cursing once more, though the man just grinned. You can't talk, so I'm gonna assume you need to be dunked in cold water. Zuko yowled and jumped off the counter, though was caught halfway down on his descent to the ground by his teacher, who set him back on the counter and turned on the hot water, warming the water up. I'll give you mercy, child. Zuko nodded and sat down, flicking his tail and leaning back to fix the uncomfortable feeling on his back, though being stopped by the bright pink glitter coating his unkempt and uncomfortable fur, much to his dismay. After Zuko was finished, and the man had assaulted the hairdryer, and with a towel, he let Izuku free from the confines of the bathroom, getting back onto the couch and finally fixing his fur, though a thump was felt beside him. When Izuku looked up, Sushi was there beside him, looking down on the boy. Zuko tensed up and slowly began to rise, preparing to bolt, though the cat just grumbled and sauntered closer, grabbing the boy by the scruff and settling him down in front of the other tabby, cleaning the boy's fur. Your fur is a mess. It's painful to look at. Zuko was stunned for a while, but slowly relaxed into the larger cat's care, still unsure, but the beast wasn't trying to kill him. After a while, his English teacher called for everyone to come to dinner, and Sushi jumped off him. Izuku shakily followed close behind. He was lifted by his English teacher and sat onto the counter, both the cats receiving special food, and Izuku happily eating after the long day. Both his teachers were having noodles, and God, Izuku wanted some so badly. He missed human food. Once Izuku was done, he sat at the edge of the counter, watching everyone. The two finished their respective dinners, and his homeroom teacher took the dishes to the sink and began to wash them. His English teacher grabbed Sushi and walked back to the bedroom to get ready for bed, Izuku assumed. So Izuku walked along the counters until he reached the sink, where his homeroom teacher stood cleaning all the dishes used to make their supper that night. He sat down and the man continued to clean, almost finished, though the bastard flicked some water at Izuku. Izuku jumped in surprise when the warm water flicked on him and stumbled back, making the man chuckle. Izuku flicked his tail and dipped his paw into the water, flicking some back at the older man, which made him laugh. He finished the dishes and drained the water, drying his hands and picking up Izuku, who used the man's shirt to dry off his own paw. The man sat him down on the bed and grabbed some pajamas and went to the bathroom to change. His English teacher was sitting on the bed, immensely focused on some papers he'd been laying on his lap, chewing on the end of a pencil. Izuku looked up at him and meowed. Meow! Tilting his head at the blonde, who looked down at him with a smile. Hey, little dude, what's up? Izuku shrugged and sat down, which made the man snort and pet him. I'm just grading some papers from before this impromptu break. You can't see, though. Izuku nodded and turned to face his back towards the taller man, who laughed and rubbed his back. Yeah, that'll work. His homeroom teacher came back in and tossed his dirty clothes into the hamper they had left by their bedroom door, and lay down on his spot on the bed. Zuko clambered up and took his spot by the man's head. It was still a little weird to sleep by his teacher, but he was small and the man was warm, so he kept curling up to him. The man chuckled and patted the back of the boy, laying his head down on the pillow and yawning. The blonde sighed and put his own papers away, taking off his glasses and setting them on the nightstand next to his side of the bed. His homeroom teacher turned off the light on his own nightstand and curled up under the covers. He watched both of his teachers get comfortable in the dark room, Sushi taking up residence once more on the blonde's pillow. He put his head on his paws and closed his eyes, drifting to sleep, soothed by the soft breathing of the man beside him, and the hand of said man that was pressed to his side, keeping him close and warm. He meowed, more sad this time, though his teachers paid him no heed. The bright antenna of hair that was his English teacher watched the road carefully, while the polar opposite of the man sat beside him in the passenger seat, hunched, trying to ignore his calls. Well, it was their fault for putting him back in the damn carrier. It stank and it was small. Too small. Though they finally parked and the carrier was lifted by his teacher, who grumbled and walked in with him, both of them walked into the teacher's lounge, where Zuko was not allowed to explore, even as a cat. The assholes! He waited patiently, and after a while his teachers picked him up and carried him out. Waving goodbye to his English teacher, they walked down the hall. Izuku slowly swaying side to side in the carrier, making him a little sick. Though he saw the 1A classroom and he perked up. The man felt his quick movement and grunted, pulling the carrier up to his face and to whisper into it. I'm not letting you out until they calm down. Zuko huffed and flicked his tail hard on the side of the carrier, which made the man snort and gently drop the carrier again, before opening the door. The class went quiet, and Izuku felt the atmosphere thicken as they walked in. The carrier was set on the teacher stand, and Izawa began to address the class. But Izuku was focused on the red eyes boring into the carrier with knowledge he knew the other had. Izuku gulped and backed away, a bit nervous of the boy from his childhood. And that is the end of this chapter. I'm just in a call chatting with. I have a little spectator again. This is like the third person that has come to spectate me recording. I don't know if Rin wants to say hi, but we got a friend here.
Why not?
Yep, I don't know if they'll pick up, but we'll find out. Rin said hi if it
Who
didn't pick up.
knows?
But anyway, I'm going to end this here so we can get to the next episode sometime in the next 20 minutes.